Hi, welcome to the Rules of Acquisition. This is Rule of Acquisition number 1. This is part of revamping the Rules of Acquisition because as time goes on I find better and better arguments and start replacing old Rules of Acquisition with better ones. But Rule of Acquisition 1 is the paramount Rule of Acquisition because it's an argument that correct answers prove nothing. Okay, there's a widely held false assumption in science that if your theory agrees with observation, that your theory must be true. This rule of acquisition will show that correct answers prove nothing. And rule of acquisition is the basis for the first 5 rules, the new first 5 rules of acquisition, which I'm calling the Bill of Truth. And the new thing about the new rules of acquisition is we have 2 names for them now. We have the compact names, like for example, rule of acquisition is now called the correct answer fallacy. That's the compact name. And the Ferengi name, because the rules of acquisition are based on the Ferengi rules of acquisition, the idea came from them, is the correct name title is a phrase. It explains what it means. Correct answers prove nothing. Like say, the wrong answer tell a single theory, wrong answer proves a theory wrong. Okay, so we get a compact name and the Ferengi name, kind of makes things a little bit more, gives a little bit more flexibility. And so rule of acquisition is wrong answer tell. Rule of acquisition 3 is a utility fallacy. Rule of acquisition 4 is utility imperative. These seem to be contradictory, but when you get there, you'll see it makes sense. And rule of acquisition 5 is the truth conundrum. To find the truth, don't look for it. So let's get back to the correct answer fallacy. Many trained scientists and engineers incorrectly believe that if a theory accurately predicts observed phenomenon, it is irrefutable. It's a scientific truth. This is the number one cause of scientific stagnation as people stop questioning theory and worse, blindly defend it. And there was a scientist on a Discovery Channel program I have not seen since, and I think I got his name right. I hope I got his name right. And he basically said, his quote that I got from the, and I hope I got the quote right too, is the greatest obstacle to science is the illusion that we think we know what we're doing. Basically what he's saying is that the belief that we know what we're doing is the number one cause, because if you think you have the truth, why bother searching or even questioning what you have? You're just going to blindly believe. If you think you know the truth, you will automatically assume you've made a mistake when discovering a counterexample. In other words, if your experiment does not agree with relativity, you automatically assume that that's what most people will do, is assume they did something wrong. Okay? Or you got something wrong with the experiment or something somewhere. You'll automatically not question the theory, and so that's going to slow you down. Maybe eventually you'll start questioning the theory, but maybe not. And if you think you know the truth, you'll automatically dismiss counterexamples of others as either gross negligence or crackpots. So if you're the person here who found the counterexample and you try to publish it, the other people out there are going to assume you're a crackpot and probably reduce your funding and fire you. So, the problem is just assuming we know the truth has detrimental aspects to science. It actually causes stagnation. So let's get back to correct answers. The rule of acquisition 1 and 2 are based on Karl Popper's quote, which is logically, no number of positive outcomes at the level of experimental testing can confirm a scientific theory, but a single counterexample can show a theory to be false. This is rule of acquisition 2. And Einstein said the same thing about relativity. No amount of experimentation can prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. You only have to find one counterexample to prove a theory wrong. So what's the basis for this? Well, the basis is that there can be an infinite number of theories that fit any given set of observations. Let's do some crude examples. Suppose that these dots represent your observations, your experimental observations, and you want to fit a theory to those experimental observations. Well, the simplest mathematical model that's going to fit those observations is a straight line. But that's not proof that the straight line is the theory of the observations, because you can have another function that fits those same observations equally well. And you say, well, okay, we'll just take some more observations and prove, it's the newer theory that fits the observation, so the newer theory must be irrefutable. Until you find out that there's another that fits all those observations, and you take infinite number of observations to prove any theory true. And because taking an infinite number of observations is impossible, then therefore it's because you'd have to do this through all time past, all time present, and even the parts of the universe that we don't know about yet to prove a theory is true universally. So the best we can do is take enough samples to show that a theory is good within the realm that we're working in, and that's it. Once we move outside that realm, which is what's happened all the time in history, once we move outside of our comfort zone, we find out that our theories that we've held as irrefutable are false. Okay, once we were on the planet, we believed that the Earth was flat. Well, once we started sailing far enough that we could see a ship's mast sink beyond the horizon, we realized, oh, gee, the Earth isn't flat, it's round, or at least round in one dimension. So, what we know today is going to be garbage tomorrow. Keep that as a truth. Now let's use a sitcom example. Let's use the Flintstones. And let's say that Fred is making observations about Wilma. And one day, observation one, Fred notices Wilma making strange phone calls at odd hours. She seems to be making plans for a rendezvous with some person named Tom. And observation number two, okay, gallivanting. Fred notices Wilma going out when he returns home. Wilma is out when he returns home, and this is out of the ordinary. And the other times she leaves with Betty, returning much, much later. And the third observation is Wilma is evasive when Fred questions her about her whereabouts with the strange phone calls. So, how does Fred connect the dots with a theory? Well, the simplest theory, and what usually happens in all these sitcom shows, is Fred automatically comes to the assumption that Wilma is having an affair. Okay, but there's another theory that could fit those dots. Oh, and as Fred confronts Wilma, Wilma explains that she's been planning a surprise birthday party for Fred. The calls are to Tom at the catering service, and the gallivanting, she and Betty are taking part-time jobs as hostess in order to pay for the party. Okay, so you can have a different theory that fits the same observations. However, the hostess job allowed Wilma to meet with a wealthy man, and this is Stoney Curtis, who does not have the abusive streak that Fred has, and she's planning to leave Fred in order to exit the abusive relationship. So in fact, both theories could be true. There's other examples, like the JFK assassination. Many theories fit the limited evidence on public record. So you have all these conspiracy theories of what really went on and what really happened and yada, yada, yada. Same thing with ancient aliens. There's compelling evidence. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that there's a completely different theory that fits all the observed data. Now, I kind of believe in the ancient aliens thing, but as a scientist, without some more concrete proof, we have to allow that there's still other possible explanations. But I'm open to it, I'd pay money as a form of taxes for people to go searching because I want to know what the truth is. I want to take more observations to reduce the number of possible explanations and maybe come upon what might be closer to the truth. And here's a different theory at Roswell that I'm going to put forward. Okay, something did crash at Roswell, New Mexico. That's a fact. That's a fact that nobody can argue with. Okay, whether it's a weather balloon or it's an alien spacecraft, something did crash at Roswell, New Mexico. And the other fact is that wreckage was loaded on a plane and flown to an air base in Texas so that the higher level general could inspect what was found. And the wreckage that was put on display was that of a weather balloon. So these are the three facts of the case. Now let me weave for you a completely different, well, not a completely, a slightly different interpretation of these things. My interpretation was that there was a cover-up. But I don't think the humans did the cover-up. I think the aliens did the cover-up. The aliens, in my opinion, okay, something was loaded on an airplane and flown to an air base in Texas. So you're telling me that the people that cleaned up the crash site, as well as Jesse Marcel, who was the guy in charge, and the people on the aircraft that were flying the wreckage, no one noticed it was a weather balloon before they flew it? So all this stuff was loaded on an airplane and nobody involved in that process of cleaning up and loading the airplane realized that it was weather balloon parts? That doesn't make any sense. So I believe something real crashed, other than a weather balloon crashed. And if it was aliens, then it was in the aliens' best interest to recover their stuff so these warlike monkeys called humans don't annihilate themselves with this new technology. So I believe in flight, the aliens abducted and replaced the debris with something. And when that finally landed in Texas, that was weather balloon wreckage. So that I believe the aliens are doing the cover-up. If the humans, this is back in the 1940s when the humans couldn't even keep the atomic bomb secret, the Americans. If they couldn't keep the atomic bomb secret, how the hell could they keep this secret? Maybe today they could cover up, I don't know. But certainly back then they'd have a very poor track record of keeping secrets. It makes more sense that the aliens would not want to contaminate us, just like in the TV show Star Trek. Whenever they have a spill and they contaminate a developing society, they go to extreme measures to recover what was lost and to try to fix the contamination, to contain the contamination. And it makes sense that a society that cares about us, a higher level beings that care about us, would not want us to get our hands on their technology, because of course we're going to use it to murder each other with. And there's the other example in the New Foundation Series video 2, where I show that the experiments on a rhombus, an inductive rhombus, come up with two models that match all the data to within experimental accuracy. So that there could be more than one mathematical model that fits the observed data is completely founded in many, many places. In conspiracy theory, in science, everywhere. And there's other examples of, things that were eventually proven wrong that were thought to be irrefutable. Archimedes' principle it doesn't properly predict the squat effect. We thought the Earth was the center of the universe, and that was correct for most things you observe. There was only a few, 5 out of the thousands of things that didn't fit the model, and that was the cause of Galileo and Copernicus solving that. Sun God model gives the right answers. This doesn't mean there's a sun god. So don't assume that if a theory or model yields the correct answers that it is the ultimate truth. Odds are that more than one model or theory exists which could explain the phenomenon to the same, if not a better degree of precision. So it is very, very poor form to be assumed that we know something irrefutable. Okay, Emir Lakatos, we should not think that a theory is ultimately true, only that no counterexample has yet been found. So my advice is never stop questioning what you think you know. Treat possible counterexamples with revelry, not automatic scorn. If somebody can prove that what we've known for 200, 300, 10,000 years is wrong, that's great, because that's the way we can evolve. That's when we can go forward and come up with better and newer theories that gets us closer to the truth. Okay, your objective is to win the truth, not win an argument. There's a lot of people, especially if you get on like YouTube chat things, that you can show them the most clear example of where their theory and whatever is wrong, and they will go and come up with the most complete and utter gibberish, because a lot of people hate being told that they're wrong. It's not about you or me being right or wrong. It's about us finding the better models, the better theories. Because if somebody can show me where I'm wrong, I'm happy and I thank them, because they've helped improve me and get me closer to the truth. Holding on to the pride of not being wrong in an argument is the most ridiculous, and it helps absolutely nothing. So people need to give that up. We need to be seeking the truth, not defending our pride. But beware of the physicist who states that anything we know is irrefutable. He is a paper pusher who has never done any real work. And they're out there, a lot of different fields. People have shut off their minds, and whatever they were taught in school is irrefutable because we've been doing it for so long. How could it possibly be wrong? The time it takes to prove a theory wrong can sometimes be 20,000 years in the case of fire, or a few hundred years. There's no time limit. The longer we know something, the odds are that it's going to be proven wrong increases. Okay, finally, all that we have and will ever have are models that mimic nature. These models were not handed to us by God on stone tablets. These models can and will be made obsolete as we learn more and more about nature, and as we improve and correct the modeling medium, mathematics. Mathematics isn't perfect either. Thank you very much. No more voodoo physics. Oh, and if you could donate, I'd appreciate it. If I could do this full time, things would get done a lot faster. There's a donate button on my website, distinti.com. I haven't had time to improve my website. My website's woefully obsolete. I apologize.